In a prison known as the Vertical Self-Management Center, 𝐏𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬 wakes up in a concrete cell with the number 48 on its wall. There's nothing but a bed and a sink for him to use and a hole in the middle of the floor, which his cellmate 𝐏𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐬 calls the pit. There are hundreds of floors like theirs, all of them with 2 prisoners using fake names assigned by the management. Every day, food is lowered on a platform through the hole, and you have 2 minutes to eat as much as possible before it leaves to a lower floor. The lower you are, the fewer chances you have of eating anything. At the end of each month, prisoners are shuffled and sent to different floors. When 𝐏𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐬 sees the platform for the first time, he decides not to eat because he isn't hungry, and he'd rather leave food for the lower levels. After eating as much as he can, 𝐏𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐬 spits on the table, knowing people above probably do the same. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 decides to keep an apple for later, but after the platform leaves, the cell begins to feel extremely hot. It turns out that keeping food is forbidden, so 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 has to get rid of the apple or they'll burn to death. This makes 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 think about the interview he had before entering the place, when he had to sign a paper accepting the fact he can't get out until the agreed period is over. Every prisoner has a choice to bring one item with them, and 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 chose to bring a copy of Don Quixote. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 came here voluntarily, he'll spend 6 months in exchange for an accredited diploma. The next day, 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 refuses to eat again when the platform comes, and 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 thinks floor 48 is wasted on him. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 asks 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 for his story, and 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 explains it all started with a television ad. He bought an extraordinary knife that he saw on TV, but only a few days later, they released a new ad promoting an even better knife. This made him so furious that he took the TV and threw it out the window, killing a guy that was passing by. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 was given a choice between a psychiatric hospital and the hole, so here he is. The lowest he's gone was 132, thus he knows there are more floors than that because he could see them below. No food reaches the lower levels, and a month down there isn't that bad. The problem is when you get 2 lower levels in a row. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 is scared of this possibility and tries to talk to the people on the other floors to ask them to ration their food, but he's ignored. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 replies by pissing into the lower floor. He also reveals that the item he chose to bring with him is the knife he bought from TV. The next time the platform comes by, 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 finally begins to eat. He also sees a person from the upper levels fall through the hole, and 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 says this is very common but nobody will do anything about it. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 tells 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 about all the floors he's been on and mentions they'll be together next month. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 realizes that cellmates are kept together when they're shuffled and finally understands 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 ate his previous cellmate when he was on the lower floors. When the platform comes by again, 𝐕𝐝haru is sitting on it. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 worries about her because he notices she's injured, but 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 tells him to ignore her. 𝐕𝐝haru comes down the hole once a month to look for her missing child. She also kills every cellmate she gets in order to have more chances to be paired with her child the following month. The guy they saw falling was probably her victim. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 then explains that unlike her, he never killed anyone, he just ate the body that fell on his floor. When the platform goes to the next level, the prisoners try to take advantage of 𝐕𝐝haru. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 yells at them to leave her alone, but it isn't necessary. 𝐕𝐝haru just kills them and returns to the platform. When the month reaches its end, the prisoners are put to sleep with gas and shuffled around. When 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 wakes up, he finds himself tied to his bed on floor 171. 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 explains he tied 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 up because he's younger and stronger, so 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 has to protect himself. Screaming can be heard from the other floors that indicate people reacting to their new levels, and when the platform comes, there's not even a crumb left. After 8 days, 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 announces it's finally time for him to get some food. Ignoring 𝐏𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 eat it, the platform arrives, bringing Miharu with it. Miharu remembers how much Goring worried about her and jumps on 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐬𝐽, attacking him with his own knife. Then she frees Goring and hands him the knife so he can use it to finish 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐽 off. Goring passes out after that, and he wakes up later to find himself on the bed. Miharu has bandaged his leg with a piece of bed sheet, and she's now eating 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐽. She brings some meat to Goring, who accepts after some hesitation. She also brings him some water before leaving on the platform without a word. Days pass and 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐽's body begins to rot, giving Goring the chance to feed on worms too. Goring also begins hallucinating, seeing 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐽's ghost judge him as he eats. At the end of the month, gas takes over the cell and Goring dreams of being with a woman again while Miharu watches. When he wakes up, he discovers that the one licking him is a dog. To Goring's shock, his new cellmate is 𝐸𝐸𝐬𝐬, the woman that did his interview when he volunteered to enter this prison. The dog is the item she chose to bring with her, and they're now on level 33. Goring remembers the day of the interview and how 𝐸𝐸𝐬𝐬 made creepy pauses between questions. In the present, 𝐸𝐸𝐬𝐬𝐬 explains she volunteered as Goring did, and that she didn't know people died here. As far as she knows, there are 200 levels, and when 𝐿𝐴𝐬 explains there isn't enough food for all the people here, 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬 points out that the amount of food would be fine if people only ate what they needed. Something that fosters a spontaneous sense of solidarity needs to happen, but 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬 finds the idea ridiculous. He does wonder if change could be achieved by the death of a child, but 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬 is sure that company policy doesn't accept under 16s. When the platform brings them food, 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬 only eats what she needs, and after giving some to her dog, she begins preparing 2 rations of food. Once the platform reaches the lower level, 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬 tries to reason with the prisoners, telling them to eat the rations she prepared and make 2 more for the next level to pass on the message. Obviously she is completely ignored, and 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬 points out that the administration doesn't actually want solidarity to happen. 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬 hates that 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬 thinks all administration is bad because she worked for them without issues, but 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬 replies that being a former worker gave her the privilege of choosing her cellmate. 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬 doesn't give up and keeps on trying to ration the food every day, but she continues to be ignored by the lower levels. 2 weeks later, 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬 finally gets tired of all her yelling and tells the people that if they don't follow 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬's instructions, he'll relieve himself on the food every day and they'll have to eat poop. The threat works and the prisoners start passing the messages to the lower levels. Sometime later, the platform comes down with an unconscious 𝐵𝐻ARO on it. 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬 and 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬 put her on a bed and take care of her while the dog steals some food. Once the platform leaves, the cell begins feeling extremely cold, and 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬 has to chase the dog to take back the food he stole before they're killed for breaking the rules. In the evening, 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬 leaves the bed to 𝐵𝐻ARO and sleeps on the floor, only to wake up to find the girls fighting. It turns out 𝐵𝐻ARO killed the dog to eat him. The next day, 𝐵𝐻ARO leaves on the platform. 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬 tells 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO about 𝐵𝐻ARO's search for her child, but 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO explains 𝐵𝐻ARO came alone 10 months ago. She was an actress with no family that volunteered to come just like 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬. 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO sent people down here without knowing how bad it was, and she's been fighting cancer for 3 years. When she discovered she lost that fight, she volunteered to come because she thought she could make a difference, but she doesn't care anymore. On their last day on floor 33, 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬 tries to make 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO eat something because they may not have food tomorrow, but 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO is too depressed to leave the bed. The next morning, 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬 wakes up to discover he's on floor 202, meaning there are more levels than 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO knew about. Such revelation was too much for 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO to handle and used her bed sheets to end things for herself. At that moment, 𝐘�0𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐬's hallucination appears again, wondering if 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 will eat his new friend. This time he's joined by 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO and her dog, who insist he should eat her body. 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 tries his best to ignore their constant rambling, and he tries to keep himself busy with other things. He tricks his stomach by eating pages of his book, and he takes a plate shard to start counting the days on the wall. Eventually the hunger becomes too much though, and 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 finally begins feeding on 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO while 𝐘�0𝐫𝐲𝐬𝐬𝐬 guides him on where to cut. Sometime later, the next shuffle comes and 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 is pleased to discover he's on floor 6. The person on the other bed is 𝐵𝐻ARO, who comes after him with a knife, but this turns out to be just a dream. 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬's new cellmate is actually 𝐵𝐻ARO, whose chosen item was a rope. 𝐵𝐻ARO is very excited because he thinks he can climb all the way to the top from here, and he asks the people on level 5 for help. The couple above teases him before accepting to grab the rope, but when 𝐵𝐻ARO starts climbing, the other prisoner lowers her pants and defecates on 𝐵𝐻ARO's face. Shocked and disgusted, 𝐵𝐻ARO lets go of the rope and falls. 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 catches him just in time, but the rope is lost in the hole. When the platform comes, they have to eat while listening to the prisoners on level 5 get frisky. As time passes, the hallucinations of 𝐾𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬 and 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO show up again. 𝐾𝐫𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 says 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 is doing great because he only has 1 more month to go, and 𝐿𝐴𝐻ARO reminds him that change never happens spontaneously. This inspires 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 to think of a plan, and he asks 𝐵𝐻ARO for help. They should jump on the platform with whatever weapon they can find, and make sure people ration the food so that everyone can eat. 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 did the math when he was on floor 202, and judging by the time the platform takes to move, he thinks there are around 250 levels, which should be doable. 𝐵𝐻ARO accepts to work together and they break a bed to use its pieces of metal like weapons. The two of them jump on the platform and go to level 7, where 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 points out they shouldn't allow the prisoners to grab anything. These people ate yesterday and will eat tomorrow for sure, so they should only start handing out food after level 50, which are the people having trouble. 𝐵�ARO hesitates because these prisoners are his friends that helped him climb up some weeks before, but as soon as the old man reacts furiously, 𝐵�ARO sees 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 point and begins helping him keep everyone away. The pair keeps going down while threatening people to keep the food untouched. After a few more floors, 𝐵�ARO is shocked to come across Brambang, an old wise man that 𝐵�ARO respects. Brambang approves of what the boys are trying to do, but he points out that the administration doesn't have a conscience and won't care if they succeed, but perhaps the workers on level 0 will, so they need a symbol. 𝐬𝐬 and 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 choose the panna cotta because it's a very luxurious dish and will cause quite an impression if it arrives untouched to the bottom. The mission continues as they keep going down, keeping the panna cotta safe while keeping people away with threats. Once they reach level 50, 𝐬𝐬 and 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 begin handing out rations of food, and people are extremely grateful. On level 97, they find a sick old man and a mentally disabled boy. 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 tries to feed the old man some soup, but the boy tells them not to bother because he'll kill the man later anyway to feed on him. The next level only has a body on it, and 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 guesses this is where Miharu woke up. The platform doesn't stop here because there aren't any living people, which means 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬's calculations were wrong and there are more than 250 floors. On the following floor, they find two men attacking Miharu. One of them has a sword and the other is huge and burly, so when 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 and 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 jump in to help the girl, it is extremely hard to defend themselves. 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 manages to get his guy first and then he helps 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 kill the big man, but unfortunately it's too late for Miharu, who is already dead. 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 wants to mourn her, but 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 drags him back on the platform before it leaves them behind. The two of them keep going down and handing out food to the prisoners they see, although many floors only have dead bodies on them. Eventually the platform stops at level 333, which seems to be the last one. At first they think it's empty, but there's actually someone hiding under the bed. It's Molly, the missing child. 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 and 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 approach the kid, and as soon as they leave the platform, it starts going down again. 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 asks 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 to throw the panna cotta into the hole, but 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 refuses. To their surprise, the room doesn't get hot or cold to punish them, and after lots of hesitation, 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 gives the panna cotta to Molly. The three of them stay on that floor, and 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 keeps being haunted by 𝐾�0𝐲𝐻𝐵𝐲𝐻, and now Miharu as well. Suddenly 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 agrees with the ghosts, telling 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 that the girl is the message, and when 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 wakes up, he discovers 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 died because of his bleeding injuries. The next time the platform comes, 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 brings Molly with him and they're lowered into floor 0, which is completely dark and empty. 𝐾�0𝐲𝐻𝐵𝐲𝐻 appears to tell 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 to come off the platform because he isn't part of the message, and together they watch the platform go up with Molly, hoping that she will show the abusers above the reality of the situation. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you in the next one.